In this video, we are continuing our Introduction to NLP series by taking a brief look at something called Representational Systems, which you may have heard of as visual, auditory, and kinesthetic, just as an example. We will explore what they are, how to recognise them, and how to use them to improve your communication. And I'll also disprove a common misconception that most people have about them. Ahoy, Bryce here from Bryter Training, where we aim to help you improve your personal and business performance by sharing new tools, models, and psychology to help you achieve your goals and outcomes. If you haven't already, please remember to hit like and subscribe. It helps us know we're on the right track and makes us do cartwheels. Or at least try to. Welcome back also to our current subscribers. We're so grateful for your support, your comments, and sharing our videos as well. It's awesome. In a previous video, we explored the idea of rapport and how you can build a connection with someone and enhance communication by matching their style. So another way to demonstrate active listening and to improve your communication skills is via representational systems. So representational systems are literally that. It's a system that people use to represent the world around them in their own minds. You may have heard someone say that I'm a visual learner or I see what you're saying. They are examples of people expressing the rep system they're using. To understand this, we need to know that people experience the world themselves through the 5 primary senses, that is sight, sound, touch, smell, and taste. Make sense? In NLP terms, that is visual, auditory, kinesthetic, olfactory, and gustatory. And there's also a 6th one called Auditory Digital, which you can think of as dealing with logic or self-talk. So all of that sensory input that comes in is processed and translated into personal maps, or represented, that becomes our internal representation of the world around us. The map of the world that we create is influenced by our filters, that is, our experience, expectations, beliefs, and values. When people think, they use representational systems to do so. The system they are using will be reflected in their words and their body. Communicating to match their system at that time will allow you to speak the same language. Thinking, therefore, can be thought as using those 5 senses internally. Interestingly, we are processing in all systems at any given time. The difference is what you're paying attention to. Now, you can recognise the system someone is processing in by paying attention to the predicates and words that they use, perhaps their eye movements or hand gestures, even their breathing and position of their head, and of course, their vocal qualities. But people will only hold a rep system for around 30 seconds or so before switching, so don't assign a label to a person, for example, a visual learner. It's not static. There was a case in New South Wales many years ago in Australia where someone badly taught over 600 teachers to profile their students and teach them based solely on the apparent learning styles and a misguided idea that it will improve how they learn. The visual learners were taught with videos, the kinesthetic learners were taught via activities, and auditory learners were given headphones and audio lessons. Of course, not only is this incorrect, but the case came to light and was shut down when an internal memo showed that teachers were taught how to identify the various learning styles. And of particular concern, it said kinesthetic learners were prone to be overweight and ethnic. So you can see the benefits of understanding rep systems is so that you pay attention to others and how they communicate. However, labeling and profiling people can be damaging, and quite simply, there is no such thing as a visual learner or any other static type. It's just what you are paying attention to. You often hear about rep systems and the misconception that I just mentioned when discussing adult learning styles. So we know that in general, people will learn by processing information through one of the main rep systems, and this is often referred to as VAK learning, so visual, auditory, and kinesthetic. And we know that people actually use all of these sensory systems when processing. They move constantly between these systems, therefore it is useful to include as many different methods of delivering information that appeal to more people and enhance learning. People will often say, I'm a visual learner, so I need images, or I don't need role plays since I don't learn that way. There is no such thing as a visual learner. While we might have a preference for watching videos instead of reading a book, the way we process the information isn't static. To demonstrate, I'm going to put a word up on the screen. Now, if you have never seen the movie or have heard the song, then this word will make no sense. While you read the word, which is a visual process, you probably would have said that word to yourself, which is auditory digital, or maybe even sung the song and heard the music, which is auditory remembered. So the lesson here is how we take the information in isn't how it is processed. Even if you think you're a visual person, you are in fact processing things in all systems. How you take information in isn't always how it is processed or how it is saved in your memory. So let's look at how to identify when people are processing in a particular representational system and how you can use the same language to improve your effectiveness and rapport. The first thing that you can actively listen out for are the phrases and descriptors that they use. Let's look at the 5 main rep systems and the sorts of language you will hear from them. First, let's consider the visual system. People using this may say things like big picture or make a scene. And if you look closely, you will hear the words like dull, look, clear, or focus. Now, someone processing auditorily may say things like that's clear as a bell, sing out, or I hear you loud and clear. And if you really listen carefully, you may hear words like amplify, verbalize, or maybe harmony. When processing kinesthetically, which is about sensation, common phrases can include things like boils down to, lay cards on the table, or let's start from scratch. Now, as you get a better grasp of the system, you may notice words such as energy, feel, or perhaps solid and to get a hold of. While not a common one that people think of, olfactory, gustatory, smell and taste is another rep system people use, and they may say something like seems rotten and that idea stinks or seems fishy. Perhaps an experience has left a bad taste in your mouth. Common words you may notice are bland, half-baked and sweet, or even sweet as bro. And finally, there is auditory digital, often called self-talk, and you may notice people use language like be alert or being in agreement. Think of processing type words and phrases. Being in error, that's not what I mean to say, or perhaps words like know, learn, consider, or pay attention. What else can you look out for when actively listening or watching? Someone processing visually will tend to have fast speech because a picture paints 1,000 words. They will use gestures and often point or even frame what they are seeing. They will speak with a fast tempo, often have shallow breathing from the top of their lungs, will speak over others and try to give a lot of information. When you notice someone using an auditory system, you may observe they do things like take turns when speaking, possibly make minimal eye contact and slower or clearer speech, with some pauses in the conversation. You may not notice as many gestures, and if you look at their breathing, it is often from the midsection to allow a greater range of tone and depth. Another reason this is useful to know is that if someone is processing auditorily in any given moment, they may not make as much eye contact, if at all. How many times were you told, look at me when I'm speaking to you, and face the idea that eye contact equals paying attention? It can be frustrating for the person and is also a common misconception to make because it's based on your beliefs but not necessarily the reality of the person you're talking to. Kinesthetic processing tends to be tactile, perhaps touching your hand or your shoulder or holding their own hands or clothing. They tend to look down, checking their body, have slower tempo and usually breathe from the stomach. If you notice signs that someone is processing kinesthetically, you should make an effort to speak slower so that they can have time to check their responses. When processing kinesthetically, you check words against feelings. Speaking too fast, like you would for a visual system, will mean they miss a lot of words. Someone processing kinesthetically can be harder to speak to, as they often can't finish sentences or speak very slowly with many pauses as they are feeling, not verbalizing. And finally, we have auditory digital processing, which tends not to have much movement. It's not as common as a preferred form of processing and is often used as a system to translate information into a preferred style. You will mainly identify the system via words that they use and the structured way they attempt to deliver information. How can you use all of this to improve your communication? When preparing a presentation or engaging in a conversation with someone, consider the needs of the audience and make sure you use elements from the different rep systems. Matching your language and descriptors to the audience will allow greater understanding and rapport, and it helps you to focus your attention on the person in front of you and not your own agenda or preferences. Again, this forms part of our Introduction to NLP series and is also part of a much more comprehensive live training program around advanced communication and leadership. So for information on this program or any others that we offer, please reach out to us at any time. Our contact details can be found on our website, which is in the description below. Thanks again for joining us, and until next time, have a great day.